My name is Caitlin Durkin. I am the manager for network partner experience at Best Friends, and I'm running this webinar series and moderating for today. I am so excited that you all are here to talk more about grassroots marketing. Um, this is something we always need to talk about, right? We always have pets. We are all working our way out of jobs or trying to, but we've got quite a ways to go. So we always have to get more community engagement, more pets out. So that's what we want to talk about today. I want to start out by thanking everyone who is participating. So I will talk and share all my thanks for our panelists, but I want to start by saying thank you to those of you who are attending live, those of you who are watching on a recording. You have incredibly hard jobs. You are very busy people, and you are still making time to learn, to connect with your peers, to ask questions, and really that's incredible. And just wanted to say really genuinely feel honored that you all are willing to give your time to do this as well. We are joined by three incredible panelists today. We have two people who are working at animal welfare organizations, shelters right now, doing this marketing work. So we are thinking of them as models for what has gone well for them, hopefully to help you spark some ideas. But also they're really going to speak from experience about the challenges for doing this work well. And so I think they're going to be a great resource for you. That's April Pfeiffer. She's the Community Programs Coordinator for Williamson County Regional Animal Shelter in Texas, and Brandon Max, who is the PR and social media specialist for Seattle Humane. We are also joined by Jorge Richa, who is the Senior Manager of Marketing Strategy and Community for Best Friends Animal Society. Jorge brings a wealth of experience doing marketing and community engagement in other fields, now, of course, working at Best Friends. So he is here to share what insights he's taken from those other fields that he's bringing into animal welfare to provide just a slightly different perspective on this topic for you all. A couple of housekeeping notes before we really get into it. There is a Q&A section. My lovely colleague, Sarah Miller, is going to be monitoring that. If you can put your questions there, that would be very helpful. Sometimes the chat gets a little busy, which we love, but we want to pull out those questions specifically. I have prepared plenty of questions for our speakers, but I am not the one doing this work right now. So I would much rather ask the questions that you have, make this really targeted so this could be as useful a webinar as possible for you all. We are also going to send this recording out as soon as it is ready. It will take us a couple days to get that to you. We want to edit out all the boring stuff, like me talking about housekeeping notes right now. So just give us a little bit of time. You will absolutely have that, though. And my final note is that we have a poll on quality at the end of this webinar. I would really appreciate it if you could tell us how we did so that we can make sure we're continually improving for you all. I have given you the quick introductions to our panelists, but I'm going to ask them to introduce themselves in more detail and to introduce themselves to you by talking about a grassroots marketing campaign that they're really proud of. We're going to start with April. April, would you mind talking a little bit more about yourself and the project that you're proud of?
Sure. Yeah, so I'm April Pfeiffer, Williamson County Regional Animal Shelter. I've long called this place my happy place. I started as a volunteer and am truly honored to have been invited to be a part of the staff 4 years ago, and now incredibly kind of gobsmacked at having been invited to attend this webinar as a speaker. So thank you so much. The Big Dogs campaign, I really loved this one. It was about the fact that we have big dogs. And we decided that we wanted to lean into that idea instead of, trying to apologize for a dog being big. Let's celebrate a dog being big. And so what we did was we grabbed some photos from some local areas and put our big dogs right smack in the middle of them and highlighted their big natures, their big personalities, and the big amount of love that they had to offer. And so, it was something that I don't think I've seen anybody do before. Maybe they have, I don't know. But I just love this particular promotion because I think it's true for all of us. We all are pretty much loaded up with the big guys. And so celebrating that fact instead of trying to hide from it, I think is a great way to approach things.
That's amazing. Thank you so much. Did you have any luck with any of these big guys getting attention that they weren't before?
Well, this particular campaign, I believe, was held at the end of 2022, 2023. Every dog who's pictured in these promotions has been adopted since. So yes, I can't speak to how quickly after the promotion was released that they were adopted, but yeah, they were all adopted eventually, and we're very happy for all of them.
It's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing this, April. I'm going to plug our Q&A just one more time. I know that big dogs are a concern that a lot of people are thinking about, that we're seeing increased length of stays for these dogs. So very open to more questions about how we can focus marketing on maybe some populations that are having trouble getting attention. Thank you. Next up, Brandon, I would love to invite you to introduce yourself in a campaign that you are proud of.
Yeah, thank you. I'm Brandon Max with the Seattle Humane on the PR and social media specialist. So I started there just right about a month before the pandemic, and got to learn very quickly how to adjust social media campaigns when you have a closed shelter and are dealing with curbside adoptions. And really kind of built out this kind of started from scratch, basically. And I found a lot of people really just enjoy watching other people kind of engage with the pets and kind of get to feel like they're in it, that kind of just point of view of the person who's engaging with the pet. And something I was really proud of. It's kind of building our TikTok account from the ground up. We're at about 62,000 followers in about 3 years' time. Didn't really want to get involved in TikTok, kind of forced into it. And I guess a campaign I'm really proud of. It was not really like a campaign. It's just kind of one of those things that kind of happens organically. Just like with April, we have large dogs. It's always a big priority, but also senior pets tend to have a longer length of stay. And in October last year, I noticed this dog had come in through one of our transfers. 2/3 of our shelter pets come in through life-saving transfers from overcrowded shelters. Her name was Pretty Girl, and she was just not really enjoying the experience. She spent her entire life in the same home. Unfortunately, she wasn't really enjoying living with a newborn baby, and the family decided to surrender her. And I basically just captured my first meeting with her, and really just kind of wanted to share what the real experience is like for a pet when they've kind of lost that security of living in a home. And really, I just really wanted to kind of make it clear that shelters are not the best place for pets, and the faster we can move them out of that, the better their mental health, the better everybody will feel. And it got People Magazine picked it up, Newsweek picked it up. There was about 1 million+ views. And it was also a really good opportunity to promote senior pets in general, and also to talk just a little bit about owner surrender and how we should try to understand where they're coming from and not shame people, because as we all know, when people feel ashamed, they abandon their pets rather than go through the better route, which is to surrender them to an organization that can help them.
That's amazing. I'm going to play this now, because if you're getting 11 million views, we should give it one more and talk about how we get that much attention on our animals. The audio might be a little bit quiet on this, everyone. You should be able to hear it, but a little quiet. But there are lovely captions here. It's so sweet how she's seeking attention from you and comfort from you just right away coming in. Do you have any updates on where she is now?
She was adopted in about 4 days. She spent a lot longer in the source shelter. Um, it was kind of, yeah, it was interesting how she approached me because people kept coming into the shelter expecting that exact same kind of response, and it didn't happen that way for them. But luckily, an older couple came in and recognized that sometimes there's a lot of decompression that needs to happen in the home, and took her home. And we got a 3-month adoption update a while back, and she's doing great, seeking attention, doing well with other visitors, really just enjoying, living with the empty nesters and no babies.
That's incredible. Thank you so much. And then Jorge, last but absolutely not least, can you introduce yourself and a campaign that you're proud of, please?
Thank you. Hi, Caitlin. Hi, everybody. My name is Jorge Richa. It's a pleasure to be with you as part of the panelists. I would say I'm the newbie in the group. I just recently joined Best Friends Animal Society 3-4 weeks ago. I'm leading the community team, and I'm looking forward to putting in practice all the marketing knowledge that I have from my past experience working with multicultural agencies and the corporate world and nonprofits. Try to see how I can move the needle on the things that we want to accomplish here at Best Friends. The type of thing I'm going to ask you to take a coffee break, because the example I'm about to provide is more related to a brand that I work with Nestle. This is an example of using grassroots marketing itself, where we actually engage a group of street teams activating and having a special activation or engagement with consumer where they actually engage the most, which is part of their festivals. So what we did here, as you can see, it's a Nestle brand, the Coffee Mate brand. What we've done is engage with the Hispanic consumers across the US and different Hispanic festivals. It was an event in which we brought to life the Coffee Mate, the mate component, because the Spanish is el compañero perfecto del café. And we conducted contests and sweepstakes and dancing competitions so that the Hispanics could actually engrave into that messaging. As you can see, there's a lot of branding in there with the color assets developed. It was an event to also get some research involved because the company was interested on getting information on the perception of the consumer to the brand. Also check like the product profile. With these activations, they were able to decide which product they were going to be pushing down to the different stores. It was also an opportunity for us to engage with consumer at different locations. As you can see, there's different ways of sampling the product. They went to places such as hair salons, bodegas, mom and pop shops, places where the Hispanics congregate in order to get this experience to them. And the result of this was successful because not only they were able to measure the amount of foot traffic and engagement with the people, but also it lived more than just the event itself. These consumers went back home to talk about the brand, and that's what grassroots component is about, just making sure that people have a good experience and relate that to the people that they live with or the people in their neighborhood. It's a best community marketing as an example.
That's amazing. I have so many follow-up questions, but I think the questions I've prepared for everyone are going to give you an opening to talk about the different elements of doing this kind of community engagement version. But my super serious first follow-up question is, were you participating in the dance competitions yourself?
I did. Obviously, I'm originally from Puerto Rico, so salsa and merengue are the two of my likable dancing engagements. So of course, that's part of you have to do what the consumer asks you to do. So in those events, you have to.
Awesome. Well, thank you all so much for sharing this. I'm going to stop sharing my screen so we can really just look at each other and have a conversation more. I wanted to start by asking you about something that you're proud of, because your biographies are going to tell us a little bit about you, but your work is really what's going to shine through in terms of getting animals adopted, saving more lives, not just adopted, fostered, more community engagement. So I really appreciate all three of you sharing that. I want to start out with a question about how you work with other people, though. So we know that everybody on this panel is a rock star individually. We know that all of our attendees are doing incredible work on their own, but also that nobody works in a silo, especially in animal welfare. We're always collaborating with people if we're going to be doing our best work. So I would love to hear from you all. How are you working with other staff members at your organizations? How are you working with volunteers, community members to bring them into the work of animal welfare?
Okay, I guess I'll start. So I work with my boss actually, and quite a bit when it comes to finding unique ideas to highlight and try to get attention for the animals here at the shelter. She has a very, very creative mind, and she is absolutely fearless when it comes to just doing anything it takes to draw eyes to our shelter, which ultimately, translates to more adoptions. So some of y'all may have seen the pie challenge. That was her brainchild, along with the really truly zany umbrella giveaway. We just do whatever it takes, anything it takes. And so I work very closely with her on those kinds of things. And then I am shameless when it comes to stealing. I steal volunteer stuff all the time. We have disclaimers in all of the different Facebook groups that we have. We also are using a new program called Band to communicate with volunteers. And everything that we use volunteer or foster wise has a disclaimer that states that the marketing people get to steal people. That's me. I'm the people. Get to steal anything that they post there for use to help market the animals or the shelter, whichever. And so I do it all the time.
That's great. Thank you. Before we move on too quickly, will you tell us what that program you're using with volunteers is, and also what the umbrella campaign was?
So Band, I believe, is something that literally originated out of the need for high school bands to be able to communicate with each other. I'm not 100% certain of it, but it functions a lot like, I think, like a Facebook group does, but it also allows for private messaging and group chats and things like that. So it's pretty new to us here, but so far so good. There are some real benefits to it. If you're like me, and the fact that you couldn't steal videos off of Facebook was driving you crazy all this time, switch to Band because you can steal videos from there. So that was a huge bonus for us. And then with the umbrella campaign, we had a volunteer who had a wild prank pulled on him while he was at work one day, where everybody brought him a brand new umbrella. I'm not really quite sure what the point of it was, but he thought the shelter might be able to come up with something crazy. And so my boss did exactly that. She offered a free umbrella for every dog adoption. And we put some silly video together with her pretending like she's a weatherman in the middle of a hurricane, and there's dogs flying in the background. It was silly and dumb and hilarious, and we had a ball with it. I love doing those sorts of zany promotions because it's so much silliness, and we laugh and we have a good time. And when you're in the middle of all of this and you have 243 dogs in the shelter and you're only supposed to have 110, that kind of laughter is absolutely essential to get through the day sometimes.
I think that's a really excellent point. Thank you so much for sharing that. Brandon or Jorge, did you want to jump in on the question about collaborating with others for your work?
Yeah, sure. I mean, of course, my manager would love me to mention the fact that we put out weekly staff and volunteer newsletters that include some of our latest campaigns, things and different links, different verbiage, so to kind of help out our staff and volunteers if they want to engage in the campaign. These are the best ways to do so. These are the links to things that you can share. Here's the kind of language you can use that's kind of more on brand for us. Of course, branding is very important. Of course, we didn't trademark our logo, so that was fun. But anyway, please don't steal. So yeah, we think the volunteers and the staff are very essential to storytelling. We also have, of course, our Facebook groups for our volunteers, for our foster parents. We're very happy to have so many foster parents in our network that are able to capture the pets in their best light, after they've decompressed a little bit. I did find a way to steal videos from Facebook. It's not the best. You'll lose a little bit of the visual quality. So usually I'll reach out to our foster coordinators and say, could you please reach out to this person and tell them that I want their content now. So that's one of the ways that we do that, kind of pulling from all those different places. I'm really happy to be kind of that person who can kind of navigate between all the kind of departments, and have kind of built up rapport over the past 4 years. So people know I might be popping in to the vet services. If you've got some kind of special medical case, we might be able to campaign, kind of raise some funds to help support those costs, things like that. As things have been kind of going, I'm sure everybody's kind of feeling this pressure with donations and things like that. We've kind of found like the big campaigns are great, but now we're kind of focusing on a lot more campaigns, but a little bit smaller, a little bit more direct, and a little more focused. So, but love our volunteers, love our staff. And sometimes I will sit down and I will coach them through a TikTok trend. They don't understand what I'm talking about. I'll show them a few examples, and we'll just keep recording and editing until we get it right.
I love that you are the internet interpreter for your team. That's lovely. But on a more serious note, I love how you're talking about building a rapport with those volunteers and those staff members, that this work is not just like taking one video from them and then reusing it, but you're building partnerships that can sustain long-term. Really incredible. Jorge, did you have anything to share?
Sure. Marketing it's fun, and everybody has a little creativity in them. So I think in order to engage staff and volunteers, it would be great if you get them involved early in the process, so that they have some sort of ownership, or at least they know the progress, or their engagement sees the result at the end of the day. Also ask them. So there's some people, for example, staff that work in finance that would love to be engaged in something marketing related, because it's completely out of their element, but they feel that they want to be part of it. It shouldn't be just something that you're showing them and then they ask them to engage them. This brings to an example that just recently happened on Best Friends. You also have to look for an opportunity for staff to get engaged. We recently had a meeting with Julie Castle, our CEO, talking about a new upcoming campaign. And during a Zoom, which all the employees were there, the community, the organization sent us collaterals regarding that campaign that was happening. And they actually took time on that big meeting to have us take a selfie with the collateral and submit it to the organization. And the marketing team did a great thing of engaging and putting a face to the staff and getting them engaged to what was coming up next. So I think it's just a matter of giving the opportunity, and sometimes just as a sample of just asking people, they're more likely to be engaged with. It's something completely different that they do on their daily tasks.
That's incredible. I'm going to ask you a follow-up question, Jorge, because I was thinking as you were presenting about your coffee mate example, if I understood you correctly, you were trying to reach your audience where they already were. They were at these festivals. So I'm curious how you brought your campaign to those festival coordinators and got partnership and collaboration from them.
Great. So we did work with a company that did most of the activation, which in turn, actually, they recruit local people, Spanish-speaking local people in those neighborhoods, so that they can be more in relationship to the people that they were engaging with. So it's a process of not just hiring whoever from the street, but also having people that are along with the places that you go and given the right talking points. And of course, for them to be talking to people at the same level. It was more of exciting rather than the job itself.
That's great. Thank you so much. I think that's great advice just in general, but also I know a lot of organizations are looking to engage their Latinx communities better. And so I think thinking about like how can we form partnerships with groups who are already working with our target audience is really a great way to start. I'm going to move on to asking some questions that were shared to us in the Q&A. So thank you to the attendees for sharing these. I'm going to combine two that I think are really closely related. So the first one is from either Yasmin or Jasmine. I'm sorry, I'm guessing at pronouncing your name. So they asked, how can we talk about the shelter's challenges without upsetting the community about animal welfare? And then related, Victoria asked, how would you manage to maintain a cheerful and upbeat tone while creating emotionally engaging content? How do you address negative interactions and responses? So how are we working with the negative parts of our job as well as the negative responses that we might get while still staying on brand, on message, on tone?
Well, I think that, the key to the question is really transparency. When you speak to the people who are already interested in what's going on in your shelter, when we're talking about social media, they're very much already engaged with what you're doing. They're very invested in what you're doing. And so when you are honest with them about what your needs are and you are upfront about how they can help you fulfill those needs, then they are going to answer. And so, we do our best to maintain a positive tone as much as we possibly can. But there are times where we feel like we need to switch our tone a little bit. And so when we do that, it tends to stand out a little bit more so that we're not, always going to the woe is us well, and instead we're trying to remain cheerful and happy, because even though we are, more than double capacity with dogs, we've got volunteers, we've got staff, we've got fosters, we've got the community. They're constantly coming and making things happen for these animals. That's an awesome thing. That's something to celebrate. So despite the fact that we are challenged on a daily basis here, we also have something to celebrate pretty much on a daily basis here. So we try to maintain that tone. And then as far as engaging with the negativity, we basically don't. We let our followers engage with that. We let our followers answer those questions. And typically they do the job for us. And we don't shut it down. We allow it to go on as long as it's not being outright threatening or things like that. But it drives engagement. It gets people talking. It gets the posts seen by more people. So we let our followers do that. We stay out of it ourselves. And that's how we handle it here.
That's something, maybe it's a matter of just acknowledging first their feelings. Obviously, they're showing their frustration. So you hear them, but then you give them the reason why you're doing certain things, so that maybe out of lack of education, they're just lashing out or making comments based on some misconceived information. So just acknowledge that if you feel the need, because I completely agree with April. If the organization doesn't need to respond because there's so much great things happening, well, why bother? But if it gets to an escalating point in which there's media and then attention's getting up, just accept that they're different opinions, but then provide them maybe a different point of view that they might change their way of thinking.
Yeah, I would agree with April. If we keep things kind of, I like to do fun, cute, all that stuff, kind of keep it going. And then when there is something serious, then people do tend to pay more attention, but they also kind of come into the conversation with a little bit more understanding, like this isn't normal. Usually, we're having fun. Well, this is obviously a serious matter. And I think when people do come at you with some kind of negativity, if they're critical of something that's happening within the shelter, I think there's a lot of opportunities for education there, trying to find the best way to communicate that this is not unique to our shelter. This is something that tends to be, across all animal welfare's organizations kinds of protocols. Of course, there's a lot of I would say misunderstanding about what a no-kill shelter is. So people get very upset when there is a euthanasia decision, whether it's behavior or medical. People tend to be a little bit more understanding about medical. Sometimes you do have to come up with a crisis communication plan and plan on something that's going to go not only out to externally, but internally with your volunteers and with your staff to let them know. And also just to make it clear to people outside the organization that, this is having a greater impact on the people who are in it, and to show grace. And we, at least myself, I try to create a safe space in all of our social media platforms. And I don't specifically call it out, but if you're going to attack people, you're not going to be invited to be a part of the conversation.
I think those were such great answers. Three things that I really heard come out of that were one, that embracing the weirdness of animal welfare people, that like we are a silly group, and that means that we can be really creative and share those ideas and connect with people even during really stressful moments and having stressful jobs. I also heard boundaries, especially from what Brandon just ended with, that, we want to be inviting and welcoming people, but we also have to protect ourselves and hold reasonable boundaries. I thought that was great. And then the last thing that I heard, especially from Jorge, was empathy, that, we can't expect everyone to know everything that we know about animal welfare. And so we're starting from acknowledging emotions. I thought that was really incredible. So thank you all. I'm going to share a question with you all from one of our attendees, Elaine, because they are bringing up one of the focuses of this webinar, which is we are animal welfare organizations. Most of us don't have a lot of money or resources to work with. So Elaine's specific question is, my shelter is all volunteers. How would you suggest that we start to engage our community? We have limited funds for events and campaigns. And I think that question can be relevant even if your organization has some staff, right? We're all, a lot of our organizations are strapped for cash, strapped for time. How do you make this work with limited resources? How do you do this truly grassroots?
Well, volunteers is the answer. Volunteers, mostly for that outreach stuff. We use volunteers for like all of our adoption events where we're asked to go out to the community. And so, we just work to have a team of volunteers who are well-versed in our programs and all of those sorts of things, and let them, take ownership of that. So that's one thing that we do. The other part is Canva. I don't know anybody. I've never met someone who didn't love Canva as much as I love Canva. If you have any kind of nonprofit status or partnership, get yourself the full version of Canva. Use it. It provides so many wonderful ideas, and I use it all the time. So Canva is great. Social media is great. Use your press contacts as much as you can. Yeah, those are the things that are coming to the top of my mind right now.
Yeah, I think it's a great thing about volunteers is that everybody has, a passion for animals, but they also have their own skill sets and they bring something different, whether they have I would probably take stock of all the volunteers, kind of figure out where their strengths lie and try to see if they have any way of helping network with other folks who might be able to bring in. Do you know somebody who also has a passion for animals, but also knows how to do video production or might be in the media, knows how to make those connections for you? Obviously, social media is good. I haven't really seen a lot of benefit with paid promotions, so you can probably do it on the cheap, just start creating those. It's slow growth, but it's really helpful. Put it out there. If you have a website, make sure you're connecting all of your social to that. And then just start, hitting the ground running, really cute puppy videos tend to get a lot of followers really fast. So just go with what you know.
Take a different approach, obviously, because you're more versed on the animal welfare. I'm more of thinking if you have a location that you're in a neighborhood or a community itself, there's neighborhoods associations that you can partner with other people that might be in the same boat as you, not because of your business, but also they want some visibility. So there might be some ways to have all of you in a location on an event that the city already sponsors, so you can get some visibility out there and eventually get those volunteers and that people that didn't even know that you might have existed, and then from there have some sort of support. Well, look around yourselves. If you have a physical brick and mortar location, think about partnerships that might not be coming to mind directly linked to your industry, but it could be also a place where the community members have different interests.
Those are great ideas. Thank you all for sharing. I've got a bunch more questions. So before I ask one, I want to thank the attendees for sharing them and also let you know that I am looking at the clock and realizing I'm not going to get to all of these incredible questions. So I want to make sure you know that we have seen them, and I'm going to share them with our network partner Facebook coordinator so that she can put those up as conversation topics. If you are not already in our Facebook group, please join. It's a great way to connect with your peers. We also have a new Instagram account that we're using for peer-to-peer connection. Sarah, if you could put those into the chat, that would be really helpful. So back to our questions. We have a couple that are coming in about the logistics of using social media and also changing the way that we use social media. So our first one is from Erin. They asked, what have you done when you've noticed your social media interactions have gone down?
Could you repeat that question? I apologize.
Of course. So what have you done when you've noticed that your social media interactions have gone down? How have you pivoted and tried to build engagement again?
It's really going back to the playfulness, our playful tone of voice. Sometimes, we get caught up in, well, I don't know about everybody else, but me specifically, I have a variety of different hats. Marketing is not my only job here. So I sometimes get caught up and just, throw social media posts up without putting a whole lot of effort into it. And that tends to show up in the engagement. So when I refocus my effort towards being playful and carrying that tone through all of our communications, that's when I see things pick back up again. People really love playfulness. Using GIFs in a in the comments section, they love that stuff, and it's so easy to do. So just engaging, being playful, and talking with your audience.
I think I've noticed, I think there's just different trends. I think you're going to just see that no matter how big you are, no matter how many followers you have, there's going to be ebbs and flows. I wouldn't suggest doing too much differently if what you'd been doing before was working and then all of a sudden there's a dip. Of course, it could be summer months. People are a little bit less engaged on their social media. There's all kinds of things, holidays, different things, spring break, all kinds of different reasons why people might be falling off. For me, I tend to find that engagement kind of goes down when we are engaged in some kind of campaign, especially like a fundraising campaign, where we're kind of pushing for people to give donations. They kind of shut us out, kind of mute us, kind of start scrolling a little bit faster when they see our account, our profile. And that's a whole other thing that I've noticed, when we are doing those campaigns, what works best for us is no graphics and no overlay copy. Just give them something cute and then hope that they will read the caption that you've written for them. Otherwise, they're going to just scroll right by. But if you got a really cute kitten, pressed up against the glass, looking really cute, they'll stop for a second and look. But if they see something that says like #GiveBig, or something like that, you're done. And it takes a little bit of time to like grow back up. You know, they're like, oh, is it over? You know, it's kind of like when your local radio station is fun, you just turn it to the heavy metal station and wait a week.
I would add just to make sure, like Brandon said, that it's not content related. Maybe it's timing of essence, but if it's content related, just make sure that you have a content that evokes a feeling first, and then obviously get some action from them. You can also engage the consumer to participate and provide you content. Who wouldn't want to have their own content be, plastered on all the media that you do, and then you be like a poster child for the campaign itself. So if it's an issue with content, maybe try to see if they can keep it fresh by providing you content themselves.
I love that. That's great. Thank you. The follow-up question is going to get really into the nitty-gritty of using social media and then managing donations that come out of that. So this is a question that comes from Marie. They write, the majority of our community and donations come from Meta, so that's Facebook and Instagram. One of our challenges is that we have to manually record who has donated to us through Meta, and the info we receive is limited. We would love to engage with them one-on-one, such as email, thank them for donations, engage with them positively. How do you all engage with your Meta community outside of the platform?
So I'm going to punt. As a municipal shelter, we don't get to play with Meta fundraising, so I cannot speak to that.
Yeah, that's really complicated. You know, we generate the donor report, we send it to our development team. If they're able, thankfully, I'm not the one who has to kind of engage with them, but they are able to kind of, hopefully be able to pull some information, kind of do some sleuthing and try to figure out who these folks are, send them thank you letters, try to get them to sign up for our newsletter, get them engaged in some way that's off that platform, hopefully get them to be, a recurring, donor, join our firmly, as we call it, so monthly giving. So we're really lucky to be a shelter that has that kind of advancement team behind those kinds of, that can keep doing those kinds of promotions. Is thankfully not something, unless they say, I just donated to you in the comments section, I have no real way of engaging with them, so being able to develop that report and have those folks kind of on my team who are able to kind of seek out those folks and say, hey, we noticed you made a very large donation through Facebook. How did that feel?
I'll go the route of, if there's a way that you can still communicate to them and they're in your surrounding area, just one of those big events that you have, make sure that they're in front of the door, and then you catch them there, and maybe hopefully they'll be sponsoring something else that you're in need of rather than just providing the cash or the dollar. There's other ways that they can contribute.
Thank you all. I think those are really great, tangible suggestions, but I also think, I want to thank, I believe it was Marie, and I'm sorry if I'm remembered wrong. Marie, I want to thank you for bringing up what I think is a true challenge, is that we are in that moment trying to transition a supporter from being a supporter in one way on one platform just through money and bringing them into the larger project, right? So I think it is really hard to do that, and I want to thank you for asking that question. I am going to now share a question from another attendee, Sarah Iyer. So they brought up an idea that I think is really interesting, and I'm in part sharing this question because I want to share it with the group, but also get your ideas for making it even better. So Sarah writes, we've started an ambassador program where we provide members of the public, people who have signed up to be ambassadors, with content weekly that they can share to their personal social media. Any tips for keeping our ambassadors engaged and also getting more people excited to join our ambassador program?
Is this a program where they are fostering a pet, or I guess I'm a little unclear as to what the ambassador program exactly might be. So I think I need a little more clarification.
Yeah, it looks like maybe they're providing them with the content and having them kind of use their own social networks to promote them. I mean, mostly we like people to share our content from our accounts because it lends a little bit more credibility and there's greater reach. Um, so yeah, I guess I would need more information also, but
So Sarah clarified in the chat that they're signing up, getting a link to a Google Drive folder with photos and text. So it sounds like not that they're fostering, but they're getting content that they can directly share. That's interesting. I would love to know, Sarah, why just sharing what you all are producing and like kind of like reposting doesn't work, and like any benefits that you've seen from that.
And I think the best way to engage those kinds of folks is, of course, to thank them and to invite them in and say, we've been feeding you content. We'd love for you to come in and create your own content, meet some of the pets that we've been asking you to promote, get a better sense there. And of course, I'm sure Sarah can probably tell me this. I'm sure that they're providing them with some kind of copy, or at least some pointers on what kind of copy to write. What are these pets likes, dislikes? Are they a Virgo? What are they?
I love that. And
Yeah,
okay.
sorry, I was just going to say, with that in mind, then I would encourage maybe creating a program around it. We have Doggy Day out here, and we get a lot of organic content just from that alone. People post on their own, and while we definitely, I agree with Brandon, we want people to share our content because of the engagement that builds and the reach, but having people speaking to their own audiences who most likely aren't our audience, that's awesome. So these people are taking dogs out for walks and to Starbucks and to market events and things like that, and really putting the dogs at the forefront. So it's been an enormous success. It sounds like maybe pairing something like that together would be a really good idea.
That's
Yeah,
great.
I would just add, maybe make it a competition without really pushing the envelope there. People thrive on doing better than other people. So if it's a matter of maybe engaging and having, okay, the person that does this amount of posts within a week and have some sort of award given to them, might not have to be an expensive proposition, but a way to keep the flow going and a little competitive going.
That's great. I think that's a really great suggestion, all of these. Just wanting to voice some things that came up in the chat. So Sarah Miller of Best Friends shared one reason why an ambassador program like this might be really useful, and that's Nextdoor. So Nextdoor is not a key platform that I think animal welfare organizations are using a lot, but it's a place where a lot of people are talking. So maybe you're providing resources that people can talk directly to the other community members about. So that's really great. And I just wanted to thank Sarah Iyer again for not only asking a question, but also responding to us in the chat and helping us have a more specific conversation. So really thank you for that. Let's see. What about an organization that is in a rural, low-income area? So I don't think this personally describes the organization for anybody here, but I know you all are partnering with a lot of other organizations. You are on social media, seeing what other groups are doing really well. So what would you suggest for when it's really hard to even get people in to support the volunteer work?
Yeah, I guess I can only speak to what I've seen from our what we call our sister shelter out in Lampasas. They have done an incredible job with building their social media presence that ultimately equated to an enormously successful change in their save rate. And so they just simply started using social media on a regular basis and telling the people who are there, who are watching, what they need. And those people told the other people who they know what that shelter needs. And they, it's the launching pad for an ever increasing megaphone, so tell people what you need and let other people help you spread that message in whatever way.
Yeah, and as a nonprofit animal shelter, we're bringing in a majority of our pets are coming from overcrowded shelters. A lot of them a lot smaller than ours, who are overcrowded, facing capacity issues, don't have the volunteer support that we might have. And we do have a lot of those folks who are reaching out to us before they're even considering sending over any pets through a transfer to see if we might help with some kind of cross-posting, sharing the pets that they have, trying to get people to, hey, if you're looking for this particular pet, we don't have them, but our friends over here do. And, they've had, a lot of low traction, not a lot of folks coming in. They might not be as well known. And just kind of, I think, so I would say relying on your peer organizations, other folks who will step in and help you out. We're all in it together. The goal is to get animals into homes. So, don't be afraid to reach out to a larger organization if you're struggling with some kind of marketing that you need help with. And, most of the time, if I get somebody who reaches out to me with questions about social media or questions about marketing, once I, come up for air, I will, sit down and write them out an email and hope some of it makes sense and that they can use some of that advice.
It's amazing. Thank you for those responses, but also thank you for that question. And for those of you who in the chat also said that describes your shelter, rural, low income. I would love to hear from you all about what other kind of content you'd want to hear from the Best Friends Network to help you all in your specific situation. At the end of this panel, Sarah's going to put into the chat a form where you can submit questions or requests to us. So really want to encourage anyone who thinks that their organization is maybe a little bit different than the organizations represented here. We still want to hear from you and make sure we're getting you the resources that you need. All right, I'm gonna, what is probably our last question, and get us a little bit out of social media, maybe. So we know that social media is Grassroots marketing bread and butter, but I would love to hear the panel's thoughts about other kinds of marketing. So what have you done outside of that space? And then Lauren wants to know specifically, what are some tips that you've done to increase foot traffic in your shelter?
Well, I find that the community loves to support animals and the animal welfare cause. So we get a lot of requests for rather unusual things, and we just say yes to as much of it as we can. So for instance, we have a partnership going on right now with our local playhouse. I bring one of our dogs into the local playhouse. We do some photos. It's a fun little extra boost of marketing that is really very much, at least in my opinion, outside of the box. And so, we really enjoy doing things like that. We do partnerships with the local minor league baseball team, and I have a volunteer who's sending out flyers to pizza companies, like all the different things that you can think of that are going to get people to see your animal and understand that you're there. Because one of the things that I still am very surprised by, but is still very much a true fact, despite how large we are and despite how much work we do trying to get our message out to the community, there are so many people who don't know we exist. And so just getting them to understand we're here is half the battle. And then, using that new supporter in whatever way we can hopefully find.
Add to that we should leverage on the local media. They're always looking for stories. The press releases and public relations people are key on gaining earned media, which is media you don't pay for it, but every time that you're in front of the camera, in front of the editorial. You can talk about your goals, and you can talk about your website, drives them there. So there's ways that the local community is interested in your story, make it very personal, make it very community-based, and they'll pay attention to it.
Yeah, we're kind of in this interesting kind of hybrid model for news nowadays, where a lot of this is being sourced from social media. So I'll post certain things on social media. I won't get a call from anybody from the press, but all of a sudden they just reported a story using all the photos and videos that I put up there, which is lazy but helpful, I guess, as long as they at least get 90% of it correct. But we also do work with a local news organizations. We have a pet of the week that we provide. This kind of came out of the pandemic when we used to go into the studios with a pet. We found that was not only stressful for the pet, but it took a lot of time having to go there, respond. There's only one social media person, who's taking all their time to focus on one pet. So we create these videos, we send them to them through Dropbox. They go ahead and they play it. We give them all the talking points. It's the one time they get everything right because I've written everything for them. And there's other ways to go about it. We've got advertising, newsletters, news releases that we can put out there. And we do also work with a lot of local sports teams when we can, out in the park, having a good time, so sometimes you have to bring the shelter to other folks. Of course, if you don't have those certain kind of resources, that can be very difficult. We have new radio stations that are always reaching out to us. If you can afford some paid media, that never hurts, so there's a lot of different venues for trying to bring people into the shelter and also to use not social media to get some attention.
Great. Thank you all so much. We are just about at the end of our time, so just a couple of closing notes here. I want to call out a couple of things that came up in the chat. So we've got somebody who had some shelter dogs help promote a ballet, kind of doing a little playful inversion. I love that. Erica did a Field of Dreams open house, dog versus cats. So some really cute, creative ideas. I encourage everybody to share from each other. We have a end of webinar poll. I would love to get your feedback, so really encourage you to do that. We have some more webinars coming out. Keep a lookout for emails about these. And I want to end by saying thank you so much to our panelists for sharing their time, their expertise, being really generous. But also thank you again to everybody who attended or who is watching this on recording. I said it at the start, but I'm going to keep saying it every time. It is just so generous that you all are making time in your busy jobs to do even more work to get even better at your jobs. It really shows your dedication to the animals and your communities. So thank you all so much. I hope you have an incredible evening. For the questions that we didn't get to, I will find a way to get you answers in other formats. And thank you all so much. Have a great night.